ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm checking out a horror film from 1972. That movie is The Gore Gore Girls. I would love to say, guys, that my hopes are high going into this movie, but they're really not. The reason why is because the other movie that was on this Blu-ray, after the absolutely horrendous shit show dog fuck that was The Wizard of Gore, my hopes have been dashed here. Right now, there's only one thing that's keeping me interested, and that was that warning I mentioned when I reviewed The Wizard of Gore. And that warning reads as follows. Warning. This program contains nudity, graphic violence, and death by French fries. I got 2 of those in The Wizard of Gore. I didn't get my French fry kill. And my interest in that has been spurred even further because earlier this month, on that very video, on that Wizard of Gore video, somebody commented that the French fry kill in the Gore Gore Girls is actually pretty fucking cool. So yes, guys, I'm watching this bastard for one scene and one scene only, but you know what? I still have hope. I honestly don't even know why, but I've got this slightest sliver of hope that this movie is going to be halfway decent. I have no idea, though. The only way I'm going to find out is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out The Gore Gore Girls. Well, apparently the original title for this movie was not The Gore Gore Girls. Apparently the original title was Blood Orgy. I can tell because the title just left the fucking screen, but it was on screen for probably about 25, 30 seconds. You know, I think maybe if you'd have put Blood Orgy on the cover here, it might actually have been a bit more enticing. As far as titles go, The Gore Gore Girls just sounds kind of shit, you know what I mean? Well, I am able to say this much, guys. This movie at least has a likable character. I mean, a genuinely likable, charming character that's far more than I got out of the Wizard of Gore. But then again, Gentry is only a likable character because he's a snarky smartass and kind of reminds me of me if I was thinner and had a mustache and a cane and an awesome car. Okay, fine. It's just the fact that he's a snarky smartass and that's a lot like me. I kind of sort of dig. I kind of dig that. Alright, you know, I totally understand, guys, that this movie's supposed to be sexy and titillating and that you're supposed to absolutely love all these shots of all these strippers and these go-go dancers and everything. But my God, it's getting so tiresome to see, man. It's like the story has come to a screaming halt, specifically so we can watch this woman dance poorly on stage. Oh, and now her act is being interrupted by feminist protesters. Okay. Well, at least the dancing's done. That horrible music she had playing is done. Maybe now the story will get to continue. Okay, well, if there's any good news, at least our killer's creative. He's never killed the same victim twice. This time he's killing his victim by literally pounding her ass in with a meat tenderizer. Granted, I will say that the fucking special effects are shit. I mean, guys, this is some of the worst I've seen from 1970s horror. This is fucking awful. But at least it's fucking creative. I'm going to at least grant it that it is a creative kill, albeit a poorly shot, horribly done kill. Well, guys, I'm going to say this. I finally got to see the French fry kill that the back of the Blu-ray case was crowing on about. I'm going to say, out of all the kills in this movie, it was actually one of the weakest ones. My God, I honest to God was hoping for something awesome and cool, and it probably would have been if, you know, they'd put any effort in any of the gore effects at all, but it just looked like absolute shit. It's kind of sad, guys. This movie has a really interesting premise. I absolutely adore the plot. Our main character, Gentry, probably one of the most likable characters I've seen in a movie in a long fucking time. But this movie is going above and beyond to suck. This pacing is horrendous. The acting from about 90% of our cast is terrible. The kills would probably be really good if the special effects weren't abhorrently shit. I'm just happy that the thing is almost over, because my god, I don't think I can take much more of this shitty stripping. Well, guys, that was the Gore Gore Girls. Shockingly, the Gore Gore Girls does not have any closing credits, so it dumped me right back out to the Blu-ray menu. That's totally fine. Goddamn, this is gonna be a hard one to really talk about. Let's start with the writing. The writing, and this always sounds weird whenever I say it, but goddamn it, it rings true here. The writing is both this film's strongest asset and its biggest detriment. And when I say that, what I mean is, when this movie wants to tell its story, holy shit, it gets really good. The writing here is really, really strong, and it really is interesting to just see as the story pans out, and plus also the fact that we have such a charming lead as Abraham Gentry. The character of Abraham Gentry is really the reason to keep on watching. He's a snarky, smartass private eye who's been asked by a local paper to apparently look into this string of stripper killings. Which, okay, all of that sounds awesome. And if they would have stuck with that, man, this movie would have been fantastic. At least in terms of writing, it would have been amazing. Unfortunately, it only really gets to shine like that for about half of the movie. The other half of the movie is padding. Really bad, really terrible, forced fucking padding. I understand, guys, that the plot is that Gentry is trying to find out who's savagely and brutally killing all these fucking strippers. And that means that we have to have Gentry, questioning people inside of the various strip clubs. That's fine. I understand that in order to set the scene, you would totally need to have footage of strippers doing their thing. Again, that's fine. The problem is, this movie tries way too hard to make you care about the strippers dancing on stage. And the problem with that, and this is less writing and more acting, is none of these women know how to fucking dance. None of them apparently know how to fucking strip either, because stripping is a little bit of a fucking art, fucking form. Like, you actually have to know how to move, and how to strip with the rhythm of whatever song is playing. You basically have to turn the whole thing into one big artistic piece. And most of these women believe that stripping is just taking off your top and spinning around about 6 times, because that, honest to God, is like the go-to move for every one of these strippers. But that's more acting. This movie does a lot of other things with padding. Also, we are shown a character by the name of Grout, and Grout's entire purpose in the film is to be one of the potential suspects, because when he sits at the strip clubs, instead of looking at the strippers or ordering a fucking drink, he just orders a whole lot of produce, takes a red Sharpie, will then draw a face on it, and will then bludgeon the shit out of said produce in order to cave it in the way one would cave in a human head. The reason for this is because Grout was, at least according to one person's story, Grout was... God damn, that truck is loud. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, according to one person's story, Grout is a shell-shocked Vietnam veteran who, when he was overseas, went fucking nutso and started caving in the skulls of, all of the various corpses in the area, and they weren't just the enemy corpses he was, caving in the fucking heads of. So now that he's back stateside, he just punches in, faces drawn on produce, because apparently it's a way of relieving stress. And he has no other reason to be there outside of to be set up as one of the potential suspects. And he would have been a perfect suspect if every single kill was these strippers having their faces punched in. And this right here is sort of where it gets positive again, guys. I will say that the kills are incredibly creative, at least as written. These kills are all unique and different and cool. The one constant is that there is constant facial damage, but it's not the kind of thing that Grout does where he just punches it, where he just takes the melons, punches them in, and then grabs another one, draws on another face. These are far more calculated, just absolutely wrecking every inch of the fucking face. But it's far more than just damaging the face. It's usually, for instance, there is the one whose ass was caved in with the meat fucking tenderizer. There's and there's just all these other sorts of kills, and every one of them is a little bit different. Every one of them is a little bit unique. The one thing that always stays constant though is facial damage. And it is going to keep you guessing, at least as far as mysteries go. This is a rather well-written mystery. It's not perfect by any means. Is it a perfect mystery? But at least it's going to keep you guessing as the movie goes. Unfortunately, you're probably going to be too fucking bored to actually see this thing all the way to the end because there is so much padding. There is so much bullshit that does not have to be there. And it takes what would have been a fascinating movie and just destroys it. The very fact, guys, that this movie is only an hour and 20 minutes and it has to pad the shit out of its fucking runtime is nothing short of tragic. They could probably have cut about 20 minutes of all of the worthless stripping and setup and all this other crap, and it would probably have flowed a shitload better, and the movie might actually have been watchable as a fucking mystery at that point. Unfortunately, the padding is what really destroys this movie. Well, it's one of the things which destroys this movie. Why don't we talk about acting? Out of the entire cast, the only person at least... Well, no. Actually, I was just thinking about it, and really, I was just about to say that there's only one or two actors who really tried. But no, I'd say about half of the cast actually put in some level of effort. Thankfully, two of those people are our two leads, who are Abraham Gentry, or our main character, Abraham Gentry, and his fucking sidekick, who is the reporter for the newspaper that's paying Gentry to find the killer. So we have those two, and the acting there is really good. The acting amongst the rest of the cast usually is okay. The one that shocks me is the special guest star in the film, which is legendary comedian Henny Youngman. And Henny Youngman, when he is able to fucking go, he can be hilarious. And he does have moments in his very brief stint in this film where he's actually able to actually do a little bit of a stand-up, and some of it comes off as really funny. The rest of it just kind of sounds like he's just phoning it in because he doesn't fucking care. Speaking of humor, I do need to sort of segue back over to writing for a moment. I don't know what this movie wanted. I don't think this movie knew what it wanted to be in terms of genre. Because we do have the stuff with Gentry. Gentry is willing to break the fourth fucking wall. He's willing to tell a whole bunch of snarky fucking jokes. All of it is really funny. And the banter between him and his fucking partner are great. I loved all of that. Unfortunately, now all of that, and Gentry basically making the lead fucking officer in the police investigation of this look foolish. Outside of all of that, nothing else in this movie screams comedy, at all. There's nothing else in this movie that says that it's trying to be funny. So we have these moments of really, really well written comedy, and they're buried in this dark, bleak, dismal horror film. Now, if they were trying to blend the two, that would have been fine. I love me a well-written horror, comedy. Unfortunately, that means you need to actually blend the two genres together. This thing here, guys, is basically like your comedy is here, and then there's like an almost audible thunk, and then you get into your horror, and then there's another audible thunk, and then we're back into a little bit more comedy. At no time does the comedy and the horror ever just blend, which is what you need if you're going to do a horror comedy. So the humor here is good. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel fitting when the rest of the movie is absolutely ignoring the fact that you're trying to be a comedy. At least trying to be a comedy at times. Guys, this movie ends on a fourth wall breaking joke. So that means that there was at least at some point, this thing probably was supposed to be a bit more of a comedy, and unfortunately that gets horrendously lost in the fucking shuffle. Again, that honestly is another one of those, the writing is its greatest strength, but also its biggest fucking detriment is the fact that we have really strong humor, but it feels ridiculously out of place compared to the rest of the movie. You kind of see where it doesn't quite balance right. I just wanted to go back to writing and talk about that. But once more, going back to acting, about half of our cast does a really decent job. The other half just do not care, and unfortunately, Henny fucking Youngman falls into the category who did not care. Now, I read somewhere, actually like 5 seconds before I started filming all of this, that Henny Youngman's scenes were all shot over the course of a day. Now, that could easily mean that he was just in no mood to fuck around. He just wanted to get his shit done and go. So perhaps maybe his fucking performance suffering is more because he didn't have a whole lot of time, or it could just be because he didn't fucking care. It could easily be both. But either fucking way, the only named talent in this movie refused to fucking try, and that stands out. It's noticeable, and it stands out. I will say, though, that our star, the man who plays Gentry, does a fucking amazing job. And as I was watching the movie, I wanted to see if he had any other credits, and according to the IMDb, he has none. The Gore Gore Girls, or Blood Orgy, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is his one sole credit, which is a fucking crime. Okay, he was amazing. Compared to every other actor I've seen in every other Herschel Gordon Lewis film I've seen, he towers head and shoulders above everybody else. The very fact that this was his one lone credit, that just feels wrong. It really, really does. Anyway, why don't we move on to special effects? Here is where the movie absolutely falters and fails. I understand that this was made in 1972. You're really not supposed to expect, great things when talking about low-budget horror in 1972. But here is my point. The other movie on this Blu-ray is The Wizard of Gore, and as much as that movie sucked, its special effects, at least by the standards of 1970, were incredibly well done. Alright? They may, now, if you were to look at them today, they obviously are cheap and shit, but by the standards of 1970, they were fairly fucking decent. We now jump ahead 2 years to the Gore Gore Girls, which probably had a similar sized budget, but has special effects that look substantially worse. So if you thought that the stuff in the Wizard of Gore looked cheesy and cheap and kind of bad, the Gore Gore Girls has it infinitely worse. There is at no fucking time are you ever going to be absolutely immersed in any of these kills. And you can think about them, and if perhaps maybe somebody had had actually a decent budget, actually knew how to do gore effects, they could probably do a remake of this and do it incredibly well. That is probably one of the only times you will ever hear me actually lobby for a fucking remake, because, god damn it, this movie could be done so much better. And you'd probably have gore effects that actually work. There might be some attempt at blending the comedy and the horror better. But back onto special effects. If you want to know how bad these special effects really are, outside of all of the obvious rubber fucking faces whenever the killer starts digging out fucking eyeballs or starts, slashing up a face, we then get to the ass scene, where where our killer has one victim bent over and grabs one of those giant wooden meat fucking tenderizer mallets and just starts pounding on her fucking ass. And the first couple of freaking swings actually look fairly decent. And then we get to a little bit later on in the scene, and to show that the tenderizer is doing something, her ass is now covered in red-dyed ground beef, and it looks like shit. Mind you, that is probably one of the better effects in this movie, because everything else is shit. Guys, I have not hidden the fact that almost any time that a movie decides to go after a victim's eyes, I usually kind of, like cringe slightly because it's a little bit fucking gross. This, probably the only time I didn't cringe watching somebody's eye get fucking poked out, stabbed, squeezed, or, just absolutely just destroyed. Probably because it looked so bad. I understand that I commented when I covered the Wizard of Gore. I commented on the bit where he's playing around with the eye, and it looked kind of cheap there, but it was still kind of fucking gross. In this movie, it wasn't, because the effect was that bad, guys. Even by the standards of 1972, the special effects in this movie are pig shit, and they've aged poorly since. So the one thing which should be driving you to want to see this movie is probably the worst part of the movie. The special effects in here are awful, and they look like the kind of thing that somebody would fucking do with literally zero special effects experience. And considering the fact that we have on here a movie from the same director made 2 years prior, this is unacceptably bad. Oh, fucking hell. Guys, I really didn't think I'd be able to bitch about the special effects in this movie as much as I have, because I really thought that would be the one saving grace here. I honestly thought I'd be able to rail on the writing more. But no. For the first time ever, I've seen a Herschel Gordon Lewis film that actually had writing that was halfway decent, usually, and it's brought down by the horrendous special effects. Amongst a few other things. Let's just skip past special effects, because I swear to fuck, I'm going to be here all goddamn day if I keep talking about the special effects. Camera work. This is a common problem in every Herschel Gordon Lewis film I've ever seen. The man doesn't know how to focus his fucking camera. So oftentimes, when you have a character walking towards fucking shot, instead of trying to keep the character in focus as they're coming forward, they basically will walk forward, and you'll watch as they get blurrier and blurrier, until finally there's no reason to even keep the fucking shot, because now everything is horrendously out of focus. This is made worse here when we have acts involving our strippers, and instead of actually having the focus on the stripper, everything is out of focus, which was probably supposed to hide the fact that said fucking stripper looked as if she was at the end of a 72-hour heroin binge, but it didn't help hide that. In fact, it actually kind of made everything stand out just a touch more, because you have to squint to see every little fucking detail. But that's not just in the scenes with the fucking strippers. That also is in the kills. That is in stationary shots. There are stationary shots here where characters are talking and the camera will slowly go out of focus and will slowly come back. It literally was almost as if they had autofocus cameras in 1972 and Herschel Gordon Lewis picked the cheapest one he could fucking find. It looks awful. And speaking of looking awful, I know this has nothing to do with camera work, but this has to do with cleaning up your film, especially when you're going to put it on fucking Blu-ray. The actual film master that they used for this thing was shit. I have not seen film that scratched up in my life. If you guys do not believe me, if you find a copy of this thing somewhere, I want you to watch around this part of the screen. Quite often you will see a white line, real jagged scratch, and it'll stay there for like 5-6 minutes, and then it goes away, and you won't see it for about 10 minutes, and then it comes right the fuck back. Same thing with like 2 other ones that are like right about here. It's really sad that I'm able to look into the viewfinder of my camera, and I can actually fucking diagram where these fucking scratches are, but that is how noticeable they are, and that is how frequently they fucking show up. And the worthless, lazy fuckwits over at Something Weird should have done a better fucking job cleaning up and remastering this goddamn thing before shit shoveling it onto fucking Blu-ray. I'm sorry, guys. That just bothers me. That just bothers me a touch. If you're gonna put something on a high-definition format, go to the fucking effort and clean the film. Otherwise, people are wasting their fucking money on it because it looks ugly. You would get the exact same look watching the son of a bitch on VHS. Oh my god. Alright, so I just wanted to get that out there because, in case someone actually wants to buy this, heads up, the picture fucking quality is awful because they didn't bother to fucking master it at all outside of maybe trying to up convert the film, which was pretty bad because then it made those 3 scratches I talked about stand out even more. In fact, you can actually see every little detail of the fucking scratch whenever it shows up, and it's weird. It's fucking terrible. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Again, I could be here all day talking about the lazy fucking effort of just porting over your fucking already terrible DVD master of a movie. Anyway, sound mix and music. I'm going to lump both these in together. The sound mix, for the most part, is good. Our music is not. All right, our sound mix is competent. All right, there's nothing here that is ultimately special in terms of like dubbed in fucking dialogue and all of that. All of that works, and that's fine. I'm more than happy that it at least works. And then we get to our music. There is one stripper who has like a 4-minute strip scene whose song is only about 25 seconds long, and you hear it on a fucking loop. And when Gentry has to question her later, that same shitty song pops up in the background. When she becomes the killer's next victim, same motherfucking song pops up across like a 7-minute gap of film. I grew so sick and tired of that one horrendous, terrible piece of fucking music. And this movie does that quite often. It will reuse its worst pieces of music and we'll use them again and again and again until you're fucking sick of it. That is another huge problem here, is just that the music is fucking awful. Look, guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you are looking for a really interesting mystery and you don't care about gore effects, music, or any of the other problems I've cited, then go right ahead and check out the Gore Gore Girls. Or, again, Blood Orgy. You might find it as Blood Orgy somewhere. In fact, actually, even though they called it the Gore Gore Girls on the Blu-ray cover, they still couldn't be fucking bothered to find a master that actually used the Gore Gore Girls title card. That's how I know it's called Blood Orgy. Because the lazy fuckers could not be asked to either find a master of this version or use the Blood Orgy poster on their fucking cover. That, again, just minor, trivial nothing. That's just fucking irritating the shit out of me. Anyway, can I recommend the Gore Gore Girls? Probably not, no. There's very little here outside of some really well fucking written comedy and a real fascinating musical, or not musical, mystery. What the fuck am I saying musical for? A rather well written mystery. Unfortunately, the humor and the mystery are buried under mountains of pig shit that I would not recommend under any fucking reason. The Gore Gore Girls is probably one of the most disappointing things I have ever seen, because even though I had set the bar incredibly low, the opening couple of minutes where we were actually greeted to the premise sounded really interesting, and it started to raise my interest a bit. And then all the padding came in, and the horrible special effects, and the occasional shitty acting, and the god-awful music, until I had to force myself to finish this fucking thing. For 2 reasons. 1, I just wanted to see the ending, and 2, I wanted to figure out who in the fuck the killer was, because I still hadn't entirely figured it out. But then again, I wasn't really hunting for all the clues and shit. So, if you can find this thing on Netflix, and you've got 82 minutes to burn, and you don't give a shit about horrible music, occasionally shitty acting, horrendously padded out script, then by all means check it out. However, though, to purchase, no. And I know that this 2-pack is relatively cheap. No, because not only is this movie a massive letdown, but the fucking Wizard of Gore was terrible. This whole 2-pack sucked, guys. I cannot recommend either film. Now, because it's Fan Appreciation Month, the Gore Gore Girls came off the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Joseph. I would love to give Joseph a shout out. Unfortunately, he didn't give me anything to mention. He didn't give me a web page, didn't give me a YouTube channel, a Facebook page, nothing. So, unfortunately, Joseph, sorry, I'm so used to shortening people's names. Joseph, I'm not going to be able to give you a shout out or a proper shout out, but still, dude, a thank you. I was really curious about this thing. It was fucking I was hoping for it to be awesome. It sucked ass, but still, I would not have known if you hadn't have sent these two movies in, and for that, I thank you. You do truly fucking rule. Wow, just... You know, guys, I started off this month watching The Wizard of Gore, and I was reminded of Herschel Gordon Lewis's film Monster A Go-Go. I'm reminded of it even more after watching this. I do have that episode of Mystery Science Theater on DVD, and as much as the ending to that movie sucked, at least the Mystery Science Theater team can make that movie at least relatively watchable. I'm going to go watch that and try to pretend I didn't waste my time on either of these fucking movies. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Reaction and Review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.